Previously, on Cycle 99, there were two families, two wealthy and powerful families who still believed. The Worthsums and the Spitzes were joined first by financing and piloting the Graf Zeppelin's famed around-the-world voyage in the 1920s. Horace Worthsum Sr. had taken great pains to acquire a son. Get up, Higgs! You're meant to be at the docks today. Now, he was being sent out aboard the Bannockburn against his will, all in the hopes that he would return from this voyage not as Higgs, but as Horace Worthsum. This would be Lottie's last chance to see it before the ship set sail and she was relegated back to the normal obligations of being Charlotte Elizabeth Worthsum. Then, above the two of them, the sharp chin and nose of Lena Spitz came into view. Higgs hadn't realized just how adept he had become at ignoring his family's shady business dealings until his father had placed the pommel of a sword in his hand and guided him down into a dingy basement the evening of his 21st birthday. Lot, you're not about to spring your dad on me too, are you? She locked eyes with Higgs. Dad's here. Episode 4. Eyes on the Knives. Cycle 99 is a swashbuckling adventure story about extinction, magic, and hope where you design the characters. Chapters release every Tuesday. Visit patreon.com/pitchpine productions for free to vote on chapter and character polls. This story is family-friendly, but may contain occasional strong language and mild violence. Welcome aboard the airship Bannockburn. Lottie walked with measured steps towards the ship's railing, the sticky plastic of her flats clicking against the sweaty wooden deck. She reached the starboard edge as a pile of passengers and crew disembarked from the dock tower's elevator carrying trunks of supplies. Higgs's attention was briefly caught by the gray-haired Captain Vovk, who shot him a wink as they effortlessly leapt up onto the starboard side rigging, disappearing onto the outer edge of the balloon. As departure approached, the deck around Monty and Higgs bustled with activity. Ropes flew and were tied here and there, crates and boxes were secured in their proper places, engines were checked and double-checked. Higgs was agog at the sight and sound of it all, and intimidated by the purposefulness and speed with which preparations unfolded. He huddled closer to Monty, relishing in his steadiness, and returned his attention to his sister. "Lottie!" Horace Sr. shouted again. His voice caught the rising wind, and the Bannockburn pressed into the soles of Higgs's shoes, sending lightning through his knees at the increased pressure. Monty straightened his uniform, running his hands along the crisp maroon lapels and refastening the top gold button, which had come undone at some point during his and Lottie's explorations aboard the Bannockburn. He swiped a hand along his brow to wipe away the sweat. "Is your dad really what Lottie tells me?" Monty asked, voice thick with weighty fear. Higgs cringed. His fingers moved to his tablet, but he hesitated. What to share? Monty's eyes traveled to Higgs's frozen fingers and back up to his face, the irises wide and brown and shining like two river-worn stones. He folded his hands behind his back. "I see," Monty replied with soft understanding. Higgs was saved from the indecisive battle he waged against his words. Using sign language, words could slip through Higgs's fingers the same way they tumbled from the mouths of his peers, exploding out of him in an excited rush. When he and Lottie first began to speak to each other in sign language, after several months' private lessons, Higgs had marveled at the power of his hands, the speed with which his thoughts could reach Lottie, the way he could scream with big, sweeping gestures and whisper with subtle, delicate flicks of his fingers. Normally, he loved his AAC tablet too, because it allowed him to retreat into a slower pace of thought, a more tacit mode of speech. The visibility of the device forced the world to allow him time before expecting to hear his thoughts. Now, there were too many words he might share with Monty in this moment of departure. Well wishes for him and Lottie, warnings about his family. All these thoughts tried to escape through his fingers at the same time. But he felt the muscles of his throat relax as Monty smiled at him, relieving him of the great and terrible duty of confiding. Lottie shouted something down to Horace Sr., but it was lost as an abrupt gust of wind rose up. The Bannockburn strained against her moorings, eager for a new adventure. Higgs stumbled into Monty, for whom a rocking deck was a normal state of affairs, and didn't resist as Monty caught his elbow and helped him get his balance. The moment Higgs stood on his own 2 feet once more, Monty's hands returned to their politely clasped position behind his back, his shoulders squared with the respectful stance befitting of his station as a uniformed sky sailor. With a piston's exhale and a wave of Lottie's pale white hand, like a flag of surrender, the elevator began to raise the worthsome patriarch up towards the docking tower. 2 men came into view moments later. The first was Horace Sr., hair combed back and lifted in a fashionable quiff, handlebar mustache oiled and glistening in the sun. He had his suit jacket folded over one arm and the sleeves of his crisp white shirt rolled up, his chest and arms nearly bursting the buttons. On his wrist, a bright gold Rolex smartwatch glittered. Next to him stood Edgar Spitz, Lena's Uncle Eddie, hair loose in spun gold curls and colorless lips pressed together in a calm smile, eyes as sharp as nails as they raked over the deck of the Bannockburn. He had a suit jacket of his own draped over one arm, but wore a skin-tight black, long-sleeved shirt tucked into khaki pants underneath, and appeared immune to the heat of the summer day. Like his niece, he had thin, fine-boned wrists made only slightly more bulky by the knives surely concealed within his sleeves. "Hello, Father," Lottie greeted. "Uncle Eddie," she added. "Sorry for shouting, Lottie, dear. I expected you to already be on the plane to London. I hope you aren't dilly-dallying?" Horace Sr. frowned, and his mustache convulsed like a dying rodent with his discontent. "You asked me to get Higgs moving," Lottie replied with a charming smile. "As you can see, delivered and ready for his voyage, Father." "Let the girl live, Horace," Mr. Spitz murmured placidly. "If she hasn't already caught the eyes of European royalty, they're the fools we always took them for, and she's better off pursuing other opportunities." "Well, Horace Sr. sputtered, face reddening. "Plus, as I always remind you, I have a Spitz or 2 who might suffice." Edgar's words cleaved calmly through Horace's blustering like a hot knife through butter. "To whom might you be referring? Surely not Ike." "What's wrong with Ike?" Edgar replied placidly. "That kid wouldn't be able to tell the back end of a blimp from its front," Mr. Worthsome chortled. No, and who are you?" Horace Sr.'s attention turned abruptly to Monty. Monty gave a crisp salute and stood at attention. "Monty Morgan, sir." "And why are you on my dirigible?" Mr. Morgan's just helping me and Higgs get the luggage aboard," Lottie interjected quickly, clasping her father's massive arm with her delicate fingers. "I asked him to show me around. He's been helping to prepare the Bannockburn for her journey. You know I can't resist such a gorgeous airship." Mr. Worthsome huffed. "Good man. Well, thank you, Morgan. Your services are no longer required." Mr. Worthsome paused. Monty paused, too, before realizing he was being summarily dismissed. "Miss Worthsome, Mr. Worthsome." Monty nodded formally to Lottie and Higgs. "Mr. Worthsome, Sr." He jerked his head at Horace. "And Mr. Spitz. It's been an honor to meet you all." With that, Monty excused himself. He started for the docking tower, then thought better of it. With a twinkle of his eye, which caused Higgs to properly understand Lottie's interest in the man, Monty swung around. He seized upon a section of rigging, flicked it to create a makeshift loop in which he placed one foot, and then stepped casually off the side of the airship. Lottie and Higgs both leapt forward in surprise, but Monty just waved his hat in a playful salute as he sailed calmly down the rope and alighted easily on his feet upon the dock below. "How fun," Mr. Spitz remarked idly. "Interesting lad," Mr. Worthsome replied, scathingly downgrading Monty from good man to interesting lad. "Yes," Lottie replied, dreamy-eyed once again. "Oh, Father, please let me go on the voyage. I could learn so much. I'd be able to improve my piloting skills." "Your mother and I have already discussed it, and it will be a no, little bird." Horace Sr. warmly swept his daughter into an embrace and spun her around, despite the severity of his decision. "Now go wait on the docks. I'll be along in a moment, and then she'll be nearly ready to depart. How about we stay and watch her go? See your brother off safely. There's a good girl." The only sound Lottie allowed to escape her lips was a sigh of bland resignation, as though she was disappointed but understanding. Her brow furrowed, however, in a look of great determination, visible only to Mr. Spitz, who made no indication that he had noticed, and to Higgs. Edgar Spitz approached Higgs and pulled him into a one-armed hug. There we are now. You remember what I taught you. Edgar pulled back and slipped a knife from his sleeve, holding it deftly in his hands by the pointed tip. He faced the stairs leading to the forecastle, pinched his eyes in practiced focus, and then flicked the knife. It stuck, tock, right on the crack between two beams of wood. Edgar clapped Higgs on the shoulder and offered him a warm smile. Eyes on the knives, Higgs, never on the prize. And if you have any problems on board, my niece will handle it. Thanks, Higgs signed, and Edgar returned an ASL, "You're welcome," before rejoining Lottie on the docking tower. That had, in part, been an early form of allegiance between the younger generations of Spitzes and Worthsums. The brothers, Bertolt and Edgar, wanted their children to learn sign language. Horace wanted his son and daughter to be trained in self-defense, including with knives. Lena, Higgs, Lottie, and the other two Spitz children, Eike and Karin, had always treated it like summer camp. This should give you some idea of how little they understood about summer camp. Higgs's father approached next. Barrel-chested and large, Horace boomed in voice and tread no matter what environment he was in. Bombastic like his daughter, the patriarch of the Worthsums had energy and command. Higgs, quiet and thin, was in every way his opposite, yet still Horace loved his son more than just about anything, some might even say too much. "You can do this, boyo," Horace murmured, drawing Higgs into a strong, painful embrace. "And when you come back, I know you'll be ready. A Worthsome through and through, eh?" Higgs blanched, stomach churning at the thought, and blinked away the feeling of a metal pommel in his hand. He nodded into his father's shoulder. "Right then." Horace straightened up. "Loading is complete." Captain Marielle de Vovg appeared at the helm, cap atop their curly gray hair, uniform smart and only somewhat grease-stained, goggles digging marks into their forehead. "All aboard the Bannockburn." Horace rejoined Lottie and Edgar as Higgs's fellow passengers poured onto the deck beside him. He clutched at the rigging, feeling vertigo already, and they hadn't even taken off yet. Lottie, still sulking, visibly pulled herself together, brushing off the skirt of her dress and tucking a stray curl behind her ear. She locked eyes with Higgs, and he knew implicitly that, like himself, she would not allow the tears welling behind her eyes to leak out. Worthsums, after all, don't cry. The docking tower's elevator began to descend, and the Bannockburn's engines roared to life. Lena joined Higgs as he rushed to the starboard railing to watch Monty and another sky sailor throw off the mooring lines, setting the Bannockburn free. The great airship lurched, and Higgs gripped the railing tightly. Horace, Lottie, and Edgar grew further and further away as they descended to the sea-level dock. Monty gave him a stark salute. Lottie dashed around the side of the dock tower's base just in time for Higgs to catch one final wave, which he heartily returned. As the Bannockburn shot into the air, the Pacific Northwest's fog rolled across the hills, and Higgs knew that he would soon be out of sight of his father down below. He felt heavy with the pressure of the deck, lifting him higher, farther, faster, and the lightning curled around his kneecaps. Higgs turned to lean against the rigging and locked eyes with... Who? You've chosen our next hero. Please visit the Patreon to find out who Higgs will meet next chapter. Cycle 99 is written, created, and produced by Hannah Semmelhack. The theme song is The Boy and the Kite by Solitude. To vote on end of chapter and character creation polls for free, visit patreon.com/pitchpine productions. Thank you to my lovely beta readers, Fiona, Aaron, and Paige, and to Basil, official lore keeper. Special thanks to Mothfella, CK, and Rainstorm. And thank you for reading, listening, and voting. May fate's four winds carry you back to our skies again, soon.